YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with another NFL offseason rebuild. This one for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are in sort of a tough situation this offseason. We're going to do this video for every single NFL team going in draft order. Teams that don't have a first-round pick will be placed in the spots where they originally had their pick. We have two channels, the Goat House and the Goat House Plus. Please subscribe to both of them. You'll find a link in the description and the comments to our new channel there. And you'll also find a link to our Twitter, Instagram, daily posts, answering any questions on Twitter. Those are must follows. And then our Patreon link is in the description as well. In these videos, I play GM, re-sign some players, cut some players, make some major free agency signings, and then do a 7-round mock draft. So we'll get through that. First thing I like to do is kind of break down the depth of the team. The guys in red are free agents, so not a whole bunch of free agents, but maybe a couple big ones here. And there actually are they're missing some on the depth chart that are free agents. See a couple at right tackle, but receiver is a spot that I actually like. I love the pick of Deontay Johnson last year. I mean, yeah, it'd be great if you can add another big time receiver, with Juju, but it's a spot where they're okay, on offense with Juju. I like James Washington, the deep threat, and Deontay Johnson had a big rookie year. And then looking at the offensive line, it could get better. You would obviously like to bring Matt Filer back if you can. Zach Banner is a solid young tackle as well. You may have to bring him back as well. But yeah, some guys that are aging on the offensive line, so that's kind of where you worry about for the future. And then tight end, interesting take on Vance McDonald coming up here. And, what I think the Steelers could do. We'll talk about that in a second. Obviously, you're getting Big Ben back next year. So, kind of by default, this team should get better because you actually have a quarterback. I think they missed the playoffs because of the lack of offense and, the amount of turnovers they had because, the lack of play at the quarterback position. And then running back, they have quite a few running backs that can play. Wish James Conner can stay healthy. I think they desperately need speed out of the backfield. That's what they're missing in a game. Today's game is, a lot of it, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is about speed. Looking at the defense, I think one of the better defenses in football last year, so it'd be ideal to try to keep these guys together. Not any big-time holes as of now, until we start getting the free agencies if you lose guys. So I do really like the defense. A lot of good young talent. I think that kind of final piece of the puzzle was trading up for Devin Bush last year, so that worked out pretty well. Hopefully he can continue to play at a high level. But to the cuts, so you see after all the guarantees and the bonuses roll out right before free agency starts, the Steelers actually will be in the negative. They'll be at negative around $8.3 million in cap space. So you're going to have to cut a number of players that really you don't want to. Some of them, yeah, you would like to, but guys like Anthony Chickillo, that's an obvious one. Just a rotation guy, nothing special. You'll save $5 million, no problem. Guys like Jordan Berry, you'll have no problem cutting. Guys like that, you have no problem cutting. But Mark Barron you can get better at that inside linebacker position, next to Devin Bush, better than Mark Barron, but still was somewhat solid for them last year. It'd be ideal to keep him together. So that's a tough decision to make, but $5.25 million, you may have to get the cap space up to even get some of your own guys back. The Ramon Foster's been a heck of a guard for them, but really aging, and then you have the ability to save $4 million. So another tough decision there. And then Vance McDonald, it's actually an option, a team option there. If they decline it, they save 5.6, a little bit over that, $1 million. And it's tough because Vance McDonald's been a solid tight end for them. They go out and trade for Nick Van Nett, who may be a little disappointing of a trade, but what they were doing was they were looking for their future tight end. That's what they were doing because they know they have to pay Vance McDonald this amount of money. They know they're tight on cap, so I think they already kind of got the feeling that they're going to have to move on from Vance McDonald here, and that's $5.6 million. That's another tough decision, but I kind of got that feeling that's kind of what they're thinking there. They may have to draft one that is cheaper. And then we go into re-signing players. This is where it's tough because, we bumped it up to around $13.5 million. The question is, can you get these guys back? Can you get them all back? And that might be tough. We've seen teams sign their own guys, go back into the negative, and go play through the NFL season in the negative. So that's something you can do. It would be ideal to keep this defense together because the offense kind of gets better by default with Ben Roethlisberger being back. So it'd be it'd be great to get these guys back, but which ones can you get back? And obviously, you see, I left Matt Filer off, the right tackle, and maybe a minor re-signing here is get Zach Banner back, the former USC offensive tackle that's still somewhat young. Get him back on a cheaper contract, and maybe Zach Banner starts at right tackle here. So, I mean, it's so hard to come across these nose tackles, and you have a solid young one in Javon Hargrave, but then, see, pass rush is so key, and kind of keeping that TJ Watt, Dupree pass, edge rush together could be crucial as well. The downside about Dupree, how much money is he going to want for having one good season? He's had okay seasons, but one really good season. But, I mean, who else are you going to get? The draft class really isn't that great unless you have a first-round pick. They don't at the pass rush position, specifically the 3-4 pass rush position. So it's going to be tough to find a replacement. So I almost think Dupree is actually a little more important than Hargrave. And then Mike Hilton, maybe not be too expensive. Their slot corner, they would like to have him back. Like I said, Banner, if they can't pay Filer, they're gonna have to pay Banner something. It'll be on the cheaper side though, and they may very well be in the negative. That's where it's tough. But what I didn't do here is what teams will do. They'll find ways to get guys to take pay cuts or kind of maybe shift the money they're supposed to get, backloaded a little more. And, I can pick out, a lot of players that could potentially happen on. I think that'll happen here in this case with the Steelers. They'll figure out a way. So I expect more cap space than just the cuts to become available, but a very tough situation. And then you won't see major signings really in free agency, obviously, because the cap situation, but some guys that I think fit and that they can look for. Greg Van Roten from the Panthers, a guard. So like I said, you're possibly cutting Ramon Foster, so you get cheaper and a little younger here, but it's at the same time it's a veteran. And then James Burgess, who kind of came out of nowhere for the Jets this year just because of injuries, played pretty damn well at inside linebacker, and he'll be on the cheaper side because one of maybe more of like the no-name type of guys and only one good season. So he'll be cheaper, and you kind of compare him with Devin Bush. And then tight end, Jacob Hollister, who actually looked pretty solid towards the end of the year for the Seahawks, could be their answer there. They're going to have to go cheap, which could be cheap free agency and then cheap within the draft at tight end, which is a huge need for them. And then you go to the draft, usually in these types of situations, where you have really no cap space to spend, example, it happens all the time, but an example would be the Vikings last year. They had no cap space to spend. They kept, they had an insane amount of draft picks last year, and because they needed to fill a bunch of roster spots because you have so much cap tied to just a few players, they needed a bunch of roster spots to fill, so they got a bunch of cheap draft picks to do it, and that would be the case the Steelers should go, the route the Steelers should go this year. But they don't have a ton of picks. So I'll be predicting them to kind of trade back a little bit to gain more picks. Obviously, they don't have a first rounder. Like I said, a young tight end is crucial. One that can do both, catch the ball and block at a high level. To me, that's Adam Trautman from Dayton. He's moving up the boards. He can be a second-round pick. Do-it-all type of guy. Didn't play against the best competition. That's kind of the question there. Can he handle this right away? Then Trey Adams, they're going to need a tackle for the future pretty desperately. Villanueva at left tackle, maybe declining a little bit, still obviously worthy of starting. And then your right tackle could either be Banner or Filer. With being tight on cap, it may be Banner. So Adams from Washington could compete to start, and he'll be a future offensive tackle. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it is crucial, in my opinion, to not only get another running back because of injury concern and your current situation, but they desperately need speed. Anthony McFarland he can fly. He can absolutely fly. He's higher on my board than he is on other people's board. I think he has excellent vision. Reminds me of Dalvin Cook a little bit. A little less strength, but a little faster. McFarland would be a big-time pick for the Steelers. Would love that pick. And then grab another linebacker. It's pretty much Devin Bush. And in this scenario, it's Devin Bush with Burgess. So you definitely going to need another one in there. TJ Brunson from South Carolina is a sleeper here. And then grab another interior defensive lineman. You could lose Hargrave. Stephon Tuitt. I like Stephon Tuitt a lot, but he's just constantly hurt. You need somebody else in there. And obviously Cam Hayward's the standout guy there. You need somebody else on there, so you get Landers from Ohio State. So not a whole bunch of great additions because where you're at in the draft here, they may be able to, maybe, I don't know if they'll move back with that 49th pick because they're going to be so desperate to get a big-time player like Trautman that can make an instant impact. Maybe those other picks, I expect, they're going to let the phones, they're going to pick up the phone. If teams want to move up, they're going to accept some offers, gain an extra pick, even if it's a 7th-round pick. They want more picks. they're tight on cap. They won't be able to bring in a whole bunch of additions this offseason, free agency, I should say. They're going to want to add more players to the draft. So a tough situation, but at the same time, it's a brutal, let's be honest, it's a brutal situation to be in the offseason. But the upside is, like I said, they get Roethlisberger back next year. Hopefully he stays healthy. They kind of get better by default on offense, without really doing anything. I know you want to bring some players back, keep the offensive line in check. And the defense, it'd be kind of key to keep those guys together because it was a great defense next year. But every team wants additions to the team. So we'll see what they'll be able to do. Hopefully they'll be able to get guys to either take pay cuts or kind of shift their contract, backload the contract, free up space for right now, because the Roethlisberger contract will be off the books, in that future anyway. So you'll be better off backloading. So that's what I expect them to do. We'll take a look at maybe guys like Villanueva, some of those veteran guys. Like, we don't really necessarily need to take a pay cut here. Can we just shift your contract back a little bit? That would make a lot of sense to me. We can go down the list and how many different guys, every team, they can do it. We'll see who they pick and choose to do that for. So that should be something to look out for, to kind of free up a little extra space for this year, which should be a year that they want to contend. So we'll see. Again, doing this for every single NFL team. We're going in draft order here. Full NFL coverage. Please subscribe to both of our channels and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We really appreciate that. It's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.